All right. This is going to be a continuation of the Pulumi VPC. Go ahead and check out that video if you haven't already. But what we're going to go ahead and do today is we're going to create a security group and we're going to allow port 22 access. We're going to create an RSA key to go ahead and upload to that instance so that we can access it remotely. And then we're going to go ahead and create an EC2 instance with Amazon Linux 2023. And this should suffice as a Bastion file server or any other type of server that you need that to live in a public space. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So we're going to go ahead and jump into AWS. Sorry about me. One second here. I'm going to go ahead and change this to dark mode so I'm not flashbanging you all in your brain. All right, there we go. Awesome. Okay, so we got a nice dark mode here. We're going to go ahead and go to EC2. And what we want to do is we're going to get the AMI for the Amazon Linux 2023 instance. So we're going to go to create the instance. We're going to find this AMI ID. We see that it's the Linux 2023 AMI. Great. Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to go back to our code editor and we're just going to say AMI equals this, right? So let's go ahead and create a security group. So we're going to go ahead and say SG public 22 equals EC2.security group. And this is going to go ahead and, of course, have the name. So we're going to say Bastion SG, right? We want to make sure that's very specific. Bastion SG, and then we're going to go ahead and specify the instance type. Maybe I'm slightly wrong here. So VPC ID, B underscore VPC dot ID. We need an ingress and an egress. So ingress, and this is going to be an array of security group ingress rules. So we're going to say EC2 dot security group ingress args, and here we're going to go ahead and specify a CIDR block, and this is going to be 0.0.0.0/0 for anybody, and we're going to go ahead to say 2 port, and we're going to say 22, and we're going to say from port and 22, and this should be good enough for our ingress. Now we're creating an actual security group here, so we need to go ahead and do an egress as well. So we'll say egress equals EC2 security group egress args. Awesome. And so here we also forgot the protocol, so we're going to say protocol TCP, and here we want to go ahead and let's go ahead and have it formatted. We're going to say 2 port, and this is going to be 0, so for all, right? From port 0, and then we're going to say protocol, and this is -1, and if I'm not mistaken, this is what you want. So I do want to highlight one thing. When you're trying to validate what actually makes sense. So yeah, -1 is going to be the protocol for basically allow all. And so we want to go ahead and say the CIDR block. Whoops. And of course, I believe, is this, hold on, let's see here. Let's make sure we're doing this right. Yeah, it's a sequence, so we actually want to put this in an array. So we want to do the same here. Awesome. Okay, so now we have our public security group. Let's go ahead and create our RSA key. Now, of course, I'm going to go ahead and delete this key, but in order to create your RSA key, you just want to go ahead and say SSH keygen, and you can do some figures here. I'm not. I'm just going to do default, so I'm going to say YouTube key, and no paraphrase, and there we go. So we got a public and a private key here. So we're going to go ahead and say let's say key pair Bastion equals EC2.keyPair, and it's going to tell us here we want to drop our public key in there, and it looks like that's pretty much it, right? So let's go ahead and say Bastion key, and we're going to go ahead and drop our public key. And what we want to do is we want to open up our public key file, and we want to copy. Let me move this over here. I don't want to show you everything, you know. Awesome. Whoa, 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 whoa. All right, cool. So we're going to paste this here after we go ahead and build it. So I'm going to actually just put this at the top of the file, because I don't, even though I'm going to delete this, I don't trust y'all. So let me go ahead and give me one moment here to refactor this. I have this in my clipboard, and I need to go ahead and make sure. All right. Great. Okay, so we have our key pair here. So we have that done, and now we just want to go ahead and create our instance. So let's say Bastion instance equals EC2.instance, and we're going to give it a name. So Bastion instance, and we want to say security groups, VPC security group IDs, and we want to have a list of security groups, so SG22 public, and we want to go ahead and pass that ID here. We want to go ahead and say instance type, and the instance type is going to be T3.micro, right? And we want to say the AMI, and we want to utilize this AMI here. And we want to go ahead and say key pair or key name, and we want to say Bastion, so key pair Bastion dot name dot key name, and this should be it. So now we should be able to go ahead and Pulumi up on this. So let's clear our terminal, say Pulumi up. Okay, put in our password. And it looks like it's going to create a bunch of stuff for us. I'm going to go ahead and do the update. Let's get this deployment rolling. Awesome. So our Bastion instance failed for some reason. We may have forgotten something here. Well, we certainly forgot something. But we will see how it goes down in just a moment. we should be good to go. What did I forget? What did it look like I forgot? It doesn't look like I forgot anything. Because I know the instance type is going to be T3 micro. We got the actual AMI, which is a string. And maybe we don't have the correct availability zone. Well, let's see. Security group and subnet belong in different networks. Okay, so for some reason it didn't like that I had a particular I probably need to specify an availability zone here, and this is going to be a string. So let's say public subnet 1 dot availability zone, and that should give us the correct availability zone here. So let's go ahead and Pulumi up one more time. And we're going to go ahead and see if we can go ahead and correct this. Let's see if it goes ahead and deploys this time. And it failed again. So I'm clearly doing something wrong here for the security group. So it looks like there's probably something else I need to do here for this particular security group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the documentation here. And I'm going to go ahead. So we got a CIDR block, ingress, egress. We have the VPC correct. For some reason, it is not doing what we want it to do. So maybe we need to go ahead. No, we're doing it right. We're just going to quickly troubleshoot here, y'all. It's saying security group SG. So let's go ahead and go into the console and look at this just a little bit more precisely. For some reason, it's not wanting to do this correctly for us. So let's go back to our error, and DBA is what we're looking for. So it would be this one here, this Bastion, and it looks like it's tied to this particular VPC. If we click that, this is actually our new VPC. And so we can clearly see that that works correctly. So it must be the EC2 instance. And so it's saying subnet A59. So if we go to subnet, we look for A59. It looks like it's creating this EC2 in our default subnet, even though I've provided the public subnet availability zone here. For some reason, it wants to create this somewhere where we don't want it to be created. So there's something here. Maybe I didn't save it. Let me Control S that real quick. Make sure it does this. Because based on, it keeps updating our private route table. And it failed again. And so for some reason, it wants to so we're going to do public shoot. Oh yeah, you can see that part. That's fine. So right here, we have this public underscore subnet 1, but for whatever reason, it's not public underscore subnet 1 dot ID. So for whatever reason, it's saying it's not defined when we clearly see it's defined here. So I must not have something closed correctly. Otherwise, I don't think it would be giving me this error. I'm actually slightly confused myself. So we have subnet ID, so public subnet 1.id. All right, for some reason let me do it that time. Awesome. So let's make sure we put it in the subnet that we want it in. All right. Now it's creating. Great. Awesome. So now we should be able to go to our EC2 and get our public IP address. Now, what you want to do is you want to do a Pulumi export to see the IP address from the terminal. So, of course, we don't have a public IP address here. Of course. And I know why, because I'm going to say true here. All right. Awesome. And we just want to wait for it to update our public subnet. Great. So while we're at it, let's just go ahead and create 2 instances. While we're here, we'll create 2 instances in a private subnet, and it'll be port 22 from so we'll say private, right? Private, and these instances are going to have this attached to them. So we want to say ingress is going to be, so in these args for CIDR blocks, we want to go ahead and give access to our other security groups. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and specify we're going to specify security groups, and we're going to say SG underscore public 22, or excuse me, whoops. And I believe a list of security groups, a group name can be used relative, otherwise group ID. So we could use the name here, and it looks like we'll just use the ID actually. Let's use that. So this is going to say ingress. Let's go ahead and allow security group public. Any instance that's in that security group should be able to access that. And so we're going to go ahead and leave the key pair here for Bastion. We're going to switch this to private subnet1.id. And we should be good here. So let's just go ahead and switch this to a T2 micro. And let's Pulumi up. Go ahead and put our password in there. All right, of course, we got an error. Private SG, and let's go Pulumi dot export, and we'll say public IP, and this will be Bastion instance dot public IP. Let's go public instance, or excuse me, private. Awesome. All right, private instance. We got an AMI, both the same. We're going to Pulumi up again. All right. All right, so we're updating the instance. The Bastion instance, we have the private instance that's been created in 14 seconds. Looks like it's taking a bit longer to get this Bastion instance. Let's make sure we get this public IP address this time, right? By the way, I did want to let this run, and you can go ahead and skip forward, fast forward this. The only reason I wanted to let this go for this first time around is, why is it not giving me a public IP address? That's interesting. So we still don't have a public IP address for some reason. Okay, well, we have a subnet, we have a route table, we have a route table to the internet gateway, and auto assign public IPv4 address. We have that enabled, and for some reason it doesn't want us to do this. So let's go ahead and comment this out, and comment this out as well, and let's Pulumi up again, and let's have it delete the instance and recreate it, because you all did in fact see I did map public IP address on launch by default. So that means that when I launch this particular instance inside this public IP address, or excuse me, this public subnet, I should get the outcome of it being So we'll hard code it here, associate public IP address, just to make sure it does it. And we'll go from there. All right, we're gonna wait for it to delete here. And we wanna go ahead and switch the security group actually. I'm gonna say private. All right, now we'll Pulumi up one more time. And I wanted to, again, I wanted to have the iterative process here. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and say yes here. And it's gonna go ahead and update what we're doing. Awesome, and it looks like we have an IP address. Let's go ahead and SSH. We're gonna use our key, U2 key, and we're gonna say EC2 user at this public IP address. We're gonna hit yes for the fingerprint, and there we go, we have access. So we should be able to LS here, and we're just gonna go ahead and exit. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and SCP, right? We're gonna say I, and of course, we're going to say U2 key. And what we want to do is EC2 user at this IP address. But what we want to do is we want to copy this key. So we're going to say home EC2 user, and we're going to say YouTube key. And we should be good to go. Oh, whoops, I U2 key, and we're gonna specify ./U2 key and copy that. So now we should be able to SSH into this particular subnet, or excuse me, this instance, and we want to go ahead and get our public or our private subnet. So we're gonna go to our instances page. We're gonna go to our other IP, and we should be able to go SSH I, and well, let's first see if we have our key here. So yeah, SSH I, and we'll say U2 key, and we'll say EC2 user at this IP address, and we'll say yes, and there we go. So now we have access to our private private instance via our Bastion server. And this private instance has access, so maybe you want to say ping google.com. Well, we don't have ICMP enabled. So that's going to be a problem. Maybe we can go ahead and do that. But the idea here really is that we can go ahead and access both instances from Bastion to the private instance, and we have all of our networking infrastructure set up. And so hopefully you learned something from this video today. Go ahead and give it a like, dislike. Tell me what I can do to improve. I know this one was very long to create, so little resources, but I did want to show the troubleshooting process when you inevitably make a mistake getting started with this. So anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.